So I've been on YouTube over the past couple years, actually a little over 2 years now, and I have posted consistently every single week for the entirety of my time on YouTube. In fact, recently, the past couple months, I've been posting 2 times a week. So I'm going to give myself a little bit of a pat on the back because it does take effort to do that. But in this video, I just want to reflect on just like what I've learned the past couple years of being on YouTube. I'm by no means a large creator, so some of the things I talk about aren't necessarily growth tips per se, but they're just like interesting little nuggets that I've learned during my time on YouTube. And some of these are also questions that I've been asked as a YouTuber. So the first thing is like, how have I been able to be consistent anyway? And I mean, this honestly is related to a lot of factors that I'm going to be talking about in this video. But I think at the end of the day, the 2 main things that allow me to be consistent is the number one thing is I just find YouTube to be fun. I find it to be very enjoyable for whatever reasons. I can try to articulate what those are, but frankly, some of those are going to be what I talk about in this video. But I just find it to be an enjoyable thing to do. And when something is fun, then it just makes it that much easier to do it and to be consistent with it. And it's not to say that there's been weeks where I haven't wanted to do a video or I've struggled to find a topic for a video. But I would say 80% of the time it's like fun to do. And I look forward to it. And especially recently with me doing a lot of these outdoor videos, it's also a way for me to, I don't know, just get outside and enjoy nature. Sometimes I don't get out here as often as I would like to. And yeah, this has been sort of been serving a dual purpose. But the other thing that has allowed me to be consistent, I think, is just always having things to talk about. And I'll delve into how I'm able to do that. But the short of it is, like, because this journey, or because this whole channel is just me documenting my journey, there's just, you know, there's no end to what I can talk about, because as long as I'm trying to improve myself and as long as I'm trying to learn things, there's the amount of things that I can make content on just never ends. And that's really cool. So content topics, that's the next, I have like a list here that I'm referencing because there's a lot of things I want to talk about. So when it comes to content topics, this is something that I've been asked, is like how to come up with content topics on YouTube. And for me, like for my channel, it's easy because again, it's just documenting my journey with things. And so for me, the main premise of my channel is document my journey with learning web design and development. And so like, as long as I'm learning things and as long as I'm trying to improve myself, then I'll constantly have things to talk about, because I can talk about what I learn, I can talk about what I'm struggling with, I can talk about certain goals that I have. Like there's just an endless, I mean, there's kind of an endless list. And, you know, and certainly like the trajectory of where I'm going will change too. And so that will change the content that I do slightly. But I think as long as this channel is like focused on my journey, then I do think that it's not as hard to come up with content topics versus someone who's really niched down into something. And this is another topic I'll talk about later, but if you're really niched down, it can be tough to constantly come up with topics. And so that's why I really like the concept of having like a YouTube channel be a personal documentary of sorts. Accountability. So this is like the main reason why I started YouTube anyway. And it was because there's a lot of, I get a lot of accountability from doing it. So because I'm posting my journey with learning design and development, at the beginning of starting a YouTube channel, there's no one watching. But as I post more videos, in the beginning, I started to get more people who would watch and eventually people who would subscribe. And so as that number of people grew, I felt more accountability to continue to learn like what I wanted to learn to further my journey, right? Because for me, like historically, it can be easy to somewhat give up on a certain pursuit that I'm doing. And one thing I've realized about myself is, whereas I may have more of a tendency to let myself down, I don't have a tendency to let others down. And so YouTube has been a really interesting way to hack my psychology to basically become more accountable. And so because now I have what I would consider to be a decent following and people who have been following my journey for a long time, it like perpetually keeps me accountable to continuing to learn relevant things in my field and to continue to try to improve myself. The other thing that has been interesting about YouTube is it's been also kind of like a form of therapy too, which is kind of odd, but in a good way. So obviously this is going to depend on the kind of channel that you have, but I will be vulnerable on my channel. I'll talk about things that I'm wrestling with when it comes to like originally on my channel was about me trying to get like a UX design job. So wrestling with internal monologues of I'm not good enough and is this the right path and all this. And I try to just be very honest about my journey. And with that, I have to be able to vocalize my inner monologue. And sometimes that inner monologue it's like, it can be difficult to articulate. And so like, it's almost a form of therapy because there's a certain power to speaking out loud the thoughts that are in your head, because I can feel like I have a good grasp on what's going on in my head, but unless I actually verbalize those things and actually speak them out loud, then I don't actually have a good understanding of what's going on in my head. And so being able to vocalize those things out loud to a camera has been really an interesting way to, I don't know, kind of like crystallize the thoughts that are in my head. Again, this is going to vary depending on what kind of channel that you have. If you have a channel that's about woodworking, probably not going to be super relatable there. But for me, since I am talking about my journey on my channel, it's something that I've realized. And then kind of like alongside that, I feel like my communication has gotten better as well. Especially for videos like this, where I do technically have bullet points of things that I want to talk about, but this is going to end up being a one-take video. I'm not going to split this up into takes. And I think that's a cool thing to experiment with. I think it's a neat thing to try to just set up a camera, film, and go with whatever take that happens to occur. And I think that it's a good thing to do because it forces, well, for one, it forces me to not be so much of a perfectionist, because more often than not, doing any kind of long form video where there are no cuts, it's nearly impossible to make that video perfect. There's going to be, I'm going to flub up something I say in this video. I'm going to stutter with something that I say, or lose my train of thought. It's bound to happen. But I think by doing this, it does train me to be able to, again, kind of similar to what I talked about, to be able to communicate the thoughts that are in my mind, and better able to just communicate things that are off the cuff. Because again, I can watch these videos and I can see if there's like a weird tick that I have, or if there's something that I need to improve upon. I used to say a lot of filler words, all that. And by watching these videos, I can point that out and I can try to get rid of that. I mean, obviously it's still there and you're going to hear a lot of it in this video. It is something I try to be aware of, and I think it goes along with the communication thing because it allows me to at least briefly think about what I want to say before I just blurt something out, and it allows me to do that faster by having the repetition of just having so many reps of talking to the camera. So I do think that doing YouTube just has helped with communication. The other thing, which is really cool, is that YouTube has given me a lot of opportunities. So I've been able to meet people that I otherwise would not have been able to meet. Like I've met a couple people when I was more focused on UX design, I've been able to meet a couple people there that truthfully I just wouldn't have been able to meet otherwise. Not in person, but like I've had conversations with them on Zoom. And otherwise, I just don't think I would have had the ability to do that. And it was neat to be able to meet some of these people. And, you know, one of them has like close to 200,000 subscribers. And I think had I not had a YouTube channel and I just cold reached out to this person, I would not have been able to have this Zoom meeting with them. But because I had a following and I was posting content that was in a similar niche to them, I was able to chat with them. It was really cool. And I've also, the thing with YouTube is, you know, a lot of people do it because they want to get monetized from it. And that's an opportunity as well. And so like I'm monetized through YouTube, through the partner program. I don't make a ton of money with that, but I make probably $170 roughly, maybe $200 a month from that. But I also make money through affiliate income. So basically, I've taken a lot of courses on my journey, and I will review those courses. And if someone wants to buy that course and want to support me, they can use my affiliate link and I can get a kickback from that. So that's been a neat opportunity I've been able to do. And brand deals, that's also been another opportunity. So there are quite a lot, actually a lot of brands that reach out to me. And I'm not saying that to brag, it is what it is. But I'm actually kind of surprised by it, but there's a lot of brands that will reach out to me to do integrations. So, you know, those parts in videos where people will say, all right, this segment of the video is sponsored by blah, blah, blah. So I've gotten quite a few of those. The only problem is that whereas I might get a lot of them during the course of a month, let's say I get 15 a month. I think that that's probably accurate. I may not do any of those 15 because they're just not good or they're just not relevant to my channel. So a lot of the people in those companies that do the reach outs from those companies for brand deals, I feel like they don't do a good job of like matching their product to the audience that I have, and probably the same for other channels too, because it's just not relevant. So I have to deny a lot of them, but that's been an opportunity that I've been able to have. As far as growth, I think a lot of people might look at this channel and say, wow, Jansley, you've posted every week, a lot of times twice a week, without fail for 2 years, and you're only at, 4,500 subscribers, which isn't a ton. Like some people will get 1 million subscribers in a year. And there's not much to say about that. Like everyone has their journey with their YouTube channel, and there are probably things that I could have done to make this grow faster, but I always have to think about longevity. And that kind of goes nicely into my next point is the people who tend to grow fast, I do find are often more niche down. So people who are more niche will typically grow faster. So if you have a channel, I don't know why I always use this example because it's not even something I do. But if you have a woodworking YouTube channel and all you talk about is woodworking, you are going to grow that channel really fast. As long as your content is decent, because it is focused. My channel, because it is talking about just like my journey with learning tech, and that tech journey has also kind of pivoted from UX design to webflow development to now like JavaScript. All of it's related, but it's like under the umbrella of tech. But again, like I'll also do videos like this, and I'll do just like videos where I just talk about what's going on in my mind. So it's not the most niche. And so I do think some of that has been the reason why I haven't been able to grow as maybe another channel that is more niche focused. But like at the end of the day, the one thing that I wanted from this channel is I never wanted it to be something where I never wanted to be pigeonholed into talking about something. I never wanted to choose this niche and then never feel like I have the capability to break out of that. And so with what I'm doing now, it is nice because I do think there's a lot of longevity to it, and there is like an overarching umbrella to the theme of my content. And so I think that's just going to vary on for every YouTuber. Is they're going to have to make a decision. Do they want to be more niche and more focused on a very specific topic and potentially that might lead to burnout because they feel like that's all they can talk about? Or do they want to have a channel that has more longevity, is not as hyper-focused, but the downside of that is the growth might not be as fast. So that is going to be different for everyone, but for me, I wanted to focus more on longevity, and so yeah, that's sort of where I'm at with that. Now, there's also a balance that takes place between trying to cater to the algorithm and also having an element of what I would consider to be authenticity. There are ways to structure videos to where you can kind of like knock it out of the park in terms of the algorithm. Which, by the way, like the algorithm is just really a measure of how much people like a video. There's nothing magic about the algorithm. It's just how do you make a video that basically hijacks people's psychology to hook them and keep them sustained throughout the video. And that's going to be based on a particular video title or topic, as well as the combination of the title and thumbnail to hook people, the intro to hook people, the having some sort of story within the video to keep people captivated. There's a lot of kind of like science that goes into it. But for me, the more that I try to cater to that algorithm, it can also be less fulfilling because it feels like I'm able to be less authentic because I don't know, I think this probably depends on the person, but for me, when I've tried to make videos that are super algorithm heavy, like I have this super nice thumbnail, a great title, I try to hook people in the first 30 seconds, I have this, I don't know, 3-arc structure to my video, I don't know, it just feels like it kind of lacks soul. And while, yeah, it might be more engaging, truthfully, like some of the videos that I do that aren't scripted at all, kind of like this, do better anyway. So I don't know. That one I think kind of, while yes, there are principles that can definitely improve your chances on getting viral views and whatnot, I think it also just depends, again, how much you want to be a slave to that and whether or not that aligns with your ability to be authentic. Like if the two align and you're able to make viral videos that you also align with, holy shit, you are going to knock it out of the park. But for me, sometimes those things don't always align. The things that usually get a lot of views and the type of niche that I'm in don't align with necessarily my ability to be authentic and to speak my mind. So that's something to think about. One thing that has helped me, I guess I'm kind of like switching a little bit to a different topic here, but one thing that was difficult for me was figuring out how I want to present myself on camera. And that can be tough. There's what I call the typical YouTuber personality that was really made popularized by Mr. Beast. So being very boisterous and like, I don't know, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the 5 things of blah, 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 blah. And here's why you need to do, like this very like crazy outgoing personality that frankly sounds kind of fake to me. I don't like it. I think a lot of YouTubers adopt that personality and it's not a bad thing. And frankly, those channels actually do pretty good. But for me, I didn't want to sound like that. I wanted to sound like what I normally sound like the way that I sound now is more often than not how I would sound if you were actually like sitting across from me right now. There's not like a whole lot of difference. I'd probably be cracking more jokes, but that's one thing that I've had trouble doing to a camera is being able to crack jokes. But in any case, what you see from me is kind of like just how I act. And so for me, especially like when I watch other channels, I tend to resonate more with people who just double down on their personality. And so I'm not necessarily giving this as advice, but I don't know, it's something to think about. You can adopt more of the YouTuber voice that you see a lot, but to me, I think it's always more rewarding to just, if you're more introverted, be that way. If you're more extroverted, be that way. and just double down on your personality, and that also will make it feel more authentic to you, because I know when I do that, it just makes it feel more authentic to me. Now, with any YouTube channel, we're going to talk about the negative here, is there's going to be haters. It's inevitable. There's always going to be, it doesn't matter how much I try to please everyone, there is going to be someone that hates what I do, and they're going to leave a bad comment about what I do. And this is actually a freeing thing, because if I try to please everyone and someone doesn't like what I do, then I might as well just be true to myself and just speak my mind, and it'll feel more authentic to me. And yes, I'll get haters, but I'll at least know that I'm speaking my truth. And I think in the beginning, I was always trying to be very non-polarizing and not speak my true mind about things when I wanted to. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to appeal to more people. And I don't know. Again, I think this depends on how much you want to cater to the algorithm or not. I think in some circumstances you can grow more if you try to appeal to everyone, but I think that your audience, I think you can grow wide or you can grow deep. You can grow wide in that you can just get a lot of subscribers, but I think you can also grow deep in your relationship to your subscribers and who watches your videos. And I prefer that aspect of it. So I just try to now, again, I'm not saying anything that polarizing, but there's things that I'll talk about where I'll have an opinion about something, and there's going to be people that poo-poo it. And that can be difficult to deal with. Like, I'll be honest, I can sit here and say, oh, just, fuck the haters, and it doesn't matter what they have to say. But that first negative comment that you get really fucking stings, and it really does not feel good. Over time, my skin has gotten thicker, right? You develop an armor over time. And so now when people have hateful comments, or I'll say negative comments, not a lot of them are hateful, just there's a lot of negative ones. So when there are negative comments, they kind of just slide off of me. It doesn't matter. However, one interesting thing is that because I've gotten so much better at doing that, when there is a comment that I am emotionally affected by, that's actually an interesting signpost for me. Because if someone says something negative about one of my videos and it strikes a chord with me, then it means that, not always, but there can be an element of truth to it, and it's at least something that I should evaluate. Like, for example, someone called out in one of my videos that I tend to flip-flop a lot, and for like the topics that I did, and there was an element of truth to that, and I felt like and it made me just like, I don't know, take stock and reevaluate on, do I need to address this? And so that's kind of like an interesting benchmark that I find. But there will always be haters, and I think you just have to, you can let it affect you. But the one piece of advice that I will give is just don't interact with them. Don't interact. I think there's some people that will try to shut them down in the comments. That usually doesn't work. I don't know. It usually just starts a fire and no one wins. But the interesting thing that I have found is that when I don't do anything, and if someone says something negative, I have a firm rule that I just don't participate. But the interesting thing is that sometimes the people in your audience will kind of fight your battle for you. And I've had instances where people in my audience, someone says something negative about me, and they'll like go into the comments and charge away and start flaming this person. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. So I got to thank my audience for that. That's pretty cool. That's actually really neat to see. But bringing this all back, like, even though there's people that are not going to like the content that you do, at the end of the day, if you are staying true to yourself And if you are making content that you resonate with and ultimately that makes you happy, then that is all that matters. And that, bringing it all back, is why I continue to do this. I find it to be fun. I think it is really rewarding for all the reasons that I talked about, to just get on camera and just share what's going on in my life, share what I learn, share what I'm struggling with, share the wins that I have. And to me, that keeps me coming back every week. But that's personal to me. And for some reason, they have different whys on how they're able to stay consistent with YouTube. But I just want to share this. You know, it's been 2 years. It's been a long ride, and I know that me personally, I've changed a lot, and my content has certainly morphed over time. But yeah, it's been a really interesting journey, as well as it's almost been like a time capsule for me to look back at how I started with this whole thing, and to be able to document something proactively. That's also like really one neat thing. I feel like a lot of people start YouTube once they're already good at something, and then they speak as the teacher, the guru, the instructor, or whatever. But I think it's really neat to like start from ground zero and just say, hey, I want to learn this thing, and I'm going to document my journey throughout the entire thing. And that's been really cool for me. And so, I don't know, if you've ever had an itch to want to start a YouTube channel, I highly encourage you go for it. If you're interested, I do have a school community where everyone in that group is doing exactly that, wanting to start a YouTube channel. And I certainly share what I learned along the way, but everyone in there is encouraged to also share what they learned. So if you're interested, there's a link in the description below. Hopefully you got some use out of this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you really liked it, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.